Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Happy Wife School Show. Wonderful to be here as always. Thanks for your patience. I was running a couple minutes behind today, but I'm very excited to be here and to talk about today's topic. Are you married to a bad wife? So before we get into this, always like to make sure you guys can hear me, see me okay. And big thank you to our moderators, Phil and Steve today. Evo is out of town and won't be with us today, but we'll look forward to seeing him in a couple weeks when I am back live. So I will be out for the 4th of July next Saturday. So we won't have a live show next week, but we'll be back the following week on that next Saturday. And let's see. If you guys haven't already, go check out these live shows on Saturday in Spotify or Apple. They're being posted here on the channel as podcast. So for those of you that maybe don't enjoy the beginning where I chat for a little bit and then at the end where I answer questions, you want to make sure that you go check out the podcast format where my wonderful assistant Chelsea is editing those into their audio form and then posting those so you can enjoy them in that podcast format. If you haven't checked out my coworker's YouTube channel, you need to go check it out. She's got a channel called Escape the Alternative Health Matrix. What Josie does is absolutely incredible. She teaches women and men who have autoimmune disorders, chronic illnesses, how to overcome and heal from those autoimmune disorders and chronic illnesses through working on the emotional state. And Josie herself has an incredible story that she had 8 autoimmune disorders and is fully healthy now by working on her emotional state. So she has a very novel, revolutionary approach to resolving those issues. So please go check out her channel if you or your wife or a loved one are struggling and going to doctors, not getting answers, going to different alternative health practitioners, still not getting better. You want to go check Josie out. And the link is in the description below to her channel. Can pop over here. Oh, I love that. Thanks, Salty Combat Diver. Josie rocks. Josie does rock in her content and just overall as a person is an incredible person. So thank you for that comment. And loud and clear, you guys are hearing me. So we are good. Thank you to everyone for being here. And let's get started. So today we are talking about, are you married to a bad wife? And I'm talking to the men and to the women in this video. And the purpose of this, speaking to the women for a moment first, a reminder that this channel is for women who are married to good men that are responsible, hardworking, sensitive, care about their wife, want her to be happy. And we all know if we're married to a good man or not. If you're confused on that, I have a whole episode on what is a good man, and you can go under the live tab to check that out. We want to identify as women the behaviors we have in ourselves that we bring into marriage that impact and affect how our husbands interact and respond with us. Because through our behaviors that do make us a bad wife, we emasculate and make our husbands wrong and bad, which has consequences. It also has consequences for ourselves, that when we show up in the ways that I'm going to talk about today, it makes us feel really bad about who we are because we're living out of integrity and out of character of being the best version of ourselves. And the aim of this channel for women is to evolve and grow into the best version of ourselves and know ourselves as real women. And this has been my journey in my marriage. So everything I am going to share today has been through my own self-discovery and my own journey of my ups and downs in my marriage to continue to evolve and be the best version of me that I can be. And my husband and my marriage get the benefit of that. I could not have the marriage I have today. I could not have the relationship I have with my husband, the relationship that I have with myself, and the moral code of integrity and character that I live by. And I'm not perfect. I say that all the time. I make mistakes. I messed up last night. But I'm willing to look at these things and continue to grow and learn. So everything I'm going to share with you today is from my own experience. Hi, my name is Karen, and I used to be a really bad wife. But by seeing what I'm going to share with you today, it opened up an opportunity for me to be humble, to look at myself, to look at my shortcomings and flaws, and have a path forward to change and become someone that I am proud to be, and share that with my husband. And my whole life gets the benefit of that, because these behaviors of myself really held me back. I want to spend a little time in the beginning. I like to think of these lives on Saturdays as a class, because as you guys know, I consider myself a teacher. And I want to spend just a little bit of time teaching about victim and why, as women, living in camp victim prevents us from being accountable and seeing the behaviors in ourselves that make us a bad wife. For the men watching, this is really important for you to see and understand what I'm going to be talking to the women about, so that you're crystal clear on how your wife is showing up, and understanding that how you experience your wife in the marriage and the poor behavior she brings into the relationship are real and valid. And we're going to get a little more into that, of why men need to know that. But that's where we're going today. And then after I teach a little bit about victim, we're going to look at 10 ways to know you are a bad wife. Again, not for the purpose for the women listening, not for the purpose of beating yourself up or making yourself wrong and bad, but actually giving yourself a path forward and the ability to change. We cannot change and heal what we deny in ourselves. We can only heal that which we are willing to look at, shine the flashlight on, and do something about and change. So that's the purpose of going here. Not to make women bad or wrong, not to hate on women, is to actually empower us to be able to see these things. So I want to, like I said, I like to talk about two different camps. I like to talk about camp victim and camp take responsibility. And I want to dive a little deeper into camp victim today. The reason being is we blame, as women, we blame our husbands for all the problems in the relationship. And we have to get honest about that and see that, because if we don't get honest and we deny that, again, we have no way out. So all we can see as women in a marriage with a good man, all we can see are the issues and problems that they are creating and what they're bringing into the relationship as a way to justify the behaviors we have in our responses. So it's, some women might say, well, I wouldn't shut down if my husband just listened to me and gave me the attention that I need. So we look at our behaviors and think, well, I respond this way that I know isn't healthy and isn't constructive, but I do that because my husband does X, Y, and Z. That's the experience of being a victim and living in camp victim, where we put our experience outside of us, that it's the people and circumstances in our life that cause us to have the emotional experience we have and cause us to act out or respond and react in certain ways. In this case, in the context of what I talk about, for us as women, it's our husbands and what our husbands are doing or not doing that cause us to react and respond in these unhealthy ways. We tell ourselves if our husbands were different, then we would be different. The problem with that, and the problem with living in camp victim from that perspective, is we can't see our behaviors as our own. We can't see our behaviors as our own. Instead, we see our behaviors as a response to what is happening. And then it is impossible to see the reality for us of how we are showing up, the behaviors we're displaying that actually do have consequences and cause a good man to respond or react in different ways. It's important to note, I always like to say this, that I teach men and women the same thing, in that in relationships, we must see that we are the problem. But as women, we have to see ourselves as the problem in a different way than how good men need to see themselves as the problem. As women, we need to see the behaviors we have in the relationship and how we are showing up and treating our husbands that's creating the problems in the marriage, so that we have that opportunity to change, can show up in a healthy way, in a kind way, as the best version of ourselves, which creates a totally different dynamic with a good man. A good man has to see that he is the problem, so that he's not in camp victim. He has to see, what is it about me that allows me to be treated so poorly by my wife? How do I unknowingly give my power away so that I can see that, take responsibility for that in myself, and learn to be strong and confident in my marriage in the face of my wife's woman ways, so he is in control of his experience, which can also have a very positive impact on the relationship and potentially allow a woman to step up and change as he is strong in himself and leading in that way as a good man. But in camp victim, it's impossible to see the reality that we are living in, and as women, because we have created the story that it is our husband that is the problem. And so then there is no capacity to be accountable. As we make our husbands the problem and only focus on what they are doing or not doing, it literally makes it impossible to take accountability. That's the very purpose of being in camp victim. There is no accountability, and there's no ability to be responsible for ourselves. We can only see others, in this case, our husband, as the cause of our experience. We are not able to see our behaviors and the effects they have on the marriage. So I want to look a little more. Why is that? Why in camp victim can we only see what others are doing? Again, in this case, our husbands, that's causing our experience and causing our behaviors in the marriage. It's a wonderful, victim is a wonderful defense mechanism that we create in the experience of being human, in the experience of our mind, that protects us from having to be vulnerable and having to be exposed for seeing our part and role in the problems in marriage or in any area of life. We live in a victim and culture of camp victim, and that it's fostered by our culture, fostered by therapy, which says our past and our upbringing and our environment has caused us to become who we have become, which is a very, very limiting viewpoint and cuts off any self-awareness to recognize ourselves and the behavior patterns we have created within ourselves. In camp victim, we live in a false reality that creates a viewpoint and a perspective that something or someone has been done to us, which causes us to act and behave the way we do and to have the emotional reactions and responses we have. In victim, we give our power and control away over our experience, which renders us impossible to see our role in anything because we are convinced that we are the victim and our experience is happening to us. Again, in this case, in the context of the channel, in the context of this video, it is our husband that is the cause of the way we are and who we are in the relationship. I often say victim is it's a very creepy place to be because we live in victim. We live in an altered reality, very much like a matrix. We live in an altered reality that doesn't actually exist. And I can say that from my experience because as I began to learn about victim 10 years ago now, one, I was in really big denial I was a victim because I couldn't stand people that were a victim. And the reality was I couldn't stand people that were a victim because that was the experience of myself. But I projected it out onto other people. When I began to recognize victim in myself, to see the blame I had in my marriage and other relationships because it's a pervasive experience in our lives, I learned to take responsibility and see what are the choices and decisions I have made that are creating the experience that I have. And as I was able to do that and continue to be able to do that because it's a journey, it's amazing to me the story I have created, the beliefs I live in from that victim perspective, that when I break out of it by seeing my choices and decisions, my responses that have created and put me exactly where I am in my life, when I break out of that altered reality from victim and I look back to the story I was living in and what I thought was happening, it's really kind of creepy because that once you take responsibility and recognize your part and role in your choices and decisions that have created the circumstances and in the life that you have, or and looking at a specific challenge, it's so apparent and obvious of like, wow, I really did a number on myself. That's not the reality at all. That was very much my experience in my marriage and how entrenched I was in blame in the beginning of this journey, and seeing my husband one way of in that place of victim. I saw my husband as shut down, incompetent, inattentive to me, not caring about me. That was the reality I was creating and how I was showing up. When I took responsibility of how I was creating the environment in my marriage, it's like a veil came off from over my eyes and I could see my husband as the wonderful man that he is, and recognize who I thought he was and how I thought he was showing up wasn't real at all. Not even close. That's the altered reality that we live in victim, that doesn't actually exist, but we really believe is real from that place of putting the power and control outside of us and living in that blame. And that's why we have to be red-pilled to see the truth of the reality and what is going on, because there's a whole other reality that's happening when we move on over to can't take responsibility. But we can't break out of that false reality until somebody shows us what's really true, which is part of why I'm here, is to show this different perspective and teach and red pill women to see the very things we can't see because we are stuck in victim. And it's a red pill for good men to break out of how they've been convinced that they are the problem in the relationship. Part of why that happens, that good men become convinced through their wife's manipulation and emasculation and gaslighting of them, they become convinced they are the problem because in general, good men live and can't take responsibility. Of course, good men can be victims. It's a human behavior pattern. So they can be victims and live in that can't victim, but generally they see life through can't take responsibility, which is why so many men can see how women lack accountability. You just look through comments of my videos, then you will see men know that women hate accountability, don't want accountability, because good men can see that accountability is important and necessary in life, because in general, they live life from a place of can't take responsibility. It's also why good men can be easily manipulated into believing that they are the problem, because they so readily want to take accountability in the relationship and take responsibility for the issues in the marriage that their wife says they are responsible for. I have spoken with many good men. I've worked with many good men through my men's marriage course. And they are constantly in their homework looking at the behaviors and seeing the reality of their wife, and often followed by that, and I know I do X, Y, and Z, and these are things I need to work on. It's just a good man's nature to want to take responsibility, to see his part and role, because he's a problem solver. But that's also how he can be in a destructive way, how he can be so susceptible to being gaslit and convinced by his wife that he's responsible for the problems in the relationship. And then a good man does all the things he knows to do, tries to do the things his wife tells him he needs to do, and then it's still not enough, and his wife is still unhappy. And it's literally a crazy making for good men. So as women, we want to understand we can never be accountable and can't victim, because we are so convinced that the problems are created by our husbands. So the first step is that women have to see how you play the victim and how you blame in your marriage and relationship. Part of that is also coming back to the concept that the only person we have control over to change is ourselves. We get so focused on wanting to change our husbands and thinking if they just changed X, Y, and Z, then we would be happy and then things would be good. But that never happens, because we never take accountability. So how do we break out a can't victim and see the behaviors we have as women that create the experience and the dynamics of the relationship? And that's where I want to go next. So we're going to jump into 10 behaviors that tell you that you are a bad wife. And a bad wife is a woman who is selfish and has no accountability. A bad wife is a woman who is selfish and has no accountability for her behaviors and issues that she brings into the relationship. That was me. I was a bad wife. I was selfish and I had no accountability. And I played the victim and I blamed my husband. And now over the last 10 years, I've worked with hundreds of women to help other women see how they are selfish and have no accountability in their marriages. And I have never had a woman that I work with who is a good fit to work with me because she's open-minded and she wants to change. That's who I can work with. I've never had a woman fight me to know these things in herself as a woman. So that's why we generalize, because it takes away the excuses and it pushes us into a corner in a constructive way to look at these behaviors. It is the only way to change. And ladies, you want to know these behaviors can be overt or covert. And the covert part is really important, because if you wear a facade in your marriage or to the outside world that you have it all together, that you're easygoing, and that's what you present, you have to look at what's going on the inside, though, because that's the truth. Can't hide behind the facade. So these 10 behaviors are a red pill in themselves to see the behaviors we know we have as women, not just in our marriages, but we have these in other relationships too. And I did that on purpose so that it makes it difficult to say, well, I wouldn't be that way if my husband was just this way, and take that excuse away. And men want to pay attention because these are the things that you believe that this is just how women are in relationships, and that's okay. But it's not okay. These are inappropriate behaviors. And we've convinced ourselves and we've convinced men, this is just how we are. It's just how we are. We can't help it. I hear from women all the time. I know I do these things and I don't even know I'm doing it, and I can't help it. No, that's not true. That's the excuse. We know what we're doing. We feel justified in the behaviors, and we don't have accountability and aren't holding ourselves accountable and aren't having somebody else hold us accountable to not behave in these ways. The other piece is we think we're the experts in relationships, and then good men buy into that the way your wife is acting is okay, and she knows how relationships are supposed to be, and this is just who she is as a woman. No, these behaviors are not acceptable, and she should be willing and able to change these behaviors. So these behaviors, ladies, will tell you and show you that you are a bad wife so that you can overcome them and change and be a good wife for yourself, to feel good about who you are and have your husband get the benefit. And good men are not these things. So part of what I'm going to do is show, here's what a good man is. And if you're saying, well, my husband does these things, it's in response to how you are showing up. If you change these behaviors and you're married to a good man, the characteristics and traits I will point out of a good man, that's who's waiting for you when you change these things. You have to go first. So we're just going to go through these in a simple way. The first behavior that tells you that you are a bad wife, you are controlling. As women, we know we are controlling. Don't deny that. We know we're controlling on a spectrum. Some women are very, very controlling. Some women are lower on the spectrum of controlling, but we all know we're controlling. It means we have to micromanage every aspect of our lives, including our marriage, including our relationship with our husbands. We need to have things go our way. Nothing can vary from the plan. Otherwise, we melt down, either overtly or covertly, that things are not going our way. And our husband gets the brunt of that controlling behavior. We micromanage our husbands to keep things in order and not have anything go a different way. Good men are not controlling. Good men by nature are easygoing and flexible. The women thinking my husband is controlling and you're married to a good man, it is a reflection and a mirror back of how you are showing up. If you let go of being controlling and change that behavior in yourself, you will have a good man right there waiting for you who is easygoing and flexible. The second behavior to tell you you are a bad wife, you need to be right. As women, we know we have the need to be right. We can't bear to be wrong, because for us as women, the worst experience we can have of ourselves is being wrong. I was just sharing this with a gentleman yesterday in a course consultation, that the equivalent of a woman resisting and can't bear to be wrong is the same of a man, that the worst thing for a man to know is that he is weak. That it's vulnerable and exposing for a man to see that he is weak. The equivalent of that for us as women is being wrong. It is very vulnerable and exposing to us as women to be wrong. It's the worst experience we can have of ourselves, because as women, we don't make being wrong just making a mistake and accepting our humanness or seeing where we are not correct. Being wrong for us as women is being fundamentally flawed, that there is something fundamentally wrong with us. That's how we interpret being wrong. So we can't allow ourselves to be wrong, and we will fight to extremes to be right and not have anything exposed that we are wrong in any way. Good men don't have a need to be right. Good men are willing to admit their mistakes and admit when they are wrong. Again, ladies, that's who's waiting for you. When you let go of your need to be right and you can admit when you have made a mistake and admit when you are not right and incorrect, who you have waiting for you is, as a good man, is a man that's willing to admit his mistakes and admit when he is wrong. Number 3 of how to know you are a bad wife. You wear the pants in the relationship. And that means as women, everything must be approved by us, and we have to give permission on anything that happens. That's why we see jokes all the time in sitcoms or commercials or movies of, oh, let me go ask my wife. And men dogging on each other because like, oh, really? You got to go ask permission of your wife? And we laugh because we know it's true. And you can probably Google or search on YouTube, my wife wears the pants, or I have to get permission from my wife. And you'll see a stream of videos from comedians joking about this experience. So we all know it's true. And if our approval is not given and we don't wear the pants, then all hell breaks loose. And again, that can be either overtly or covertly of what's happening in us. Good men don't need to wear the pants. Good men go along to get along. It's like, whatever you say, dear, because they just want us to be happy. The 4th behavior to know you are a bad wife. You are a pain avoider. As women, we are pain avoiders. We do everything to avoid conflict and having difficult conversations to get to resolutions and the problems. We all know this. This can be confusing. Especially I've seen comments from men. It can be confusing. What do you mean women are pain avoiders? They're so emotional. As women, we stay emotional to avoid the pain of looking at ourselves. Being a pain avoider as a woman is a protective mechanism to not have to take accountability and be exposed to the issues we contribute to. If we face conflict, then we will have to face ourselves and our part and role in the problems, and then be accountable to actually change those behaviors. Good men are not pain avoiders. Good men are problem solvers and want to seek solutions. Tell me what I need to do, and I will correct the problem. Good men become weakened and avoid conflict with their wife, not because they're pain avoiders, but because of the fear we instill in good men of how we respond and react to them in our woman ways. So ladies, when you start changing these behaviors, stop being a pain avoider, you will have a good man there waiting for you, wanting to solve the issues and have tough conversations and deal with the conflict. The 5th way to know you are a bad wife. You are moody, temperamental, and emotional. Again, either overtly or covertly. This one really speaks for itself. But as women, we live in emotional turmoil. And good men never know when the lid is going to pop off or what mood we are going to be in when we get home. And we keep our husbands walking on eggshells. And they don't know that we might be having a good time and having fun together. And all of a sudden, the switch flips. I've had this happen with my husband. We're having a good time. I get triggered by something. I shut down. It was, what just happened? Where did you go? And that's what we do as women in our moodiness and emotional turmoil. Good men are not moody, temperamental, and emotional. Good men are consistent, stable, and pragmatic, meaning they're unemotional and can see things for what they really are. Doesn't mean they don't have emotions. They do. Good men tend to be quite sensitive and deeply feeling within themselves, but they don't go around wearing their emotions on their sleeves. They deal with life. This is who is waiting for you when you change these behaviors. Number 6 of how to know you are a bad wife. You are critical and judgmental. Again, these are all behaviors we know we have as women, not just in our marriage, but across many, many different relationships like family and friends and coworkers. And again, we want to be honest about these in ourselves. So number 6, you are critical and judgmental, meaning we focus on the negative, we focus on the flaws and the shortcomings of our husbands. And our husbands could do 20 amazing things for us and then make one mistake. And all we can focus on is one mistake. It's like the analogy that a restaurant is only as good as the last meal you had. You can go to a restaurant, have 15 different times and have an amazing experience. And then you go and it's not a good experience and the food is off that night. And all you can think about is that one bad meal. You might say, I'm never going back there again. That's what we do in our marriages as women with our husbands, that he's only as good as the last thing he has done. And we forget all the other amazing things that they're doing or have done. And all we can focus on is the one thing they haven't done or the one mistake that they made. And that's what we stay focused on in the relationship. Good men are not critical and judgmental. Good men are focused on the good things and the positive. That's why you can have a good man reach out. Give me a list of the poor treatment that they get from their wives and then finish it. But she's so wonderful and just such a lovely person. It's because a good man sees and focuses on the good things and the positive. Number 7 of how to know you are a bad wife. You have double standards, meaning do as I say, not as I do. That as women, we feel we can do what we want. We can make the rules and then break the rules as we please. But our husbands need to stay to the strict rules that we have given them. And they need to do as we say, not as we do. It's like I can make the rules and I can change them at my convenience and at a whim, but the rules still apply to you. It's like one might say, oh, I'm going to go out and go to dinner with my good girlfriend. And then a man wants to go do something with his buddy and all hell breaks loose. That's a really good example of a double standard. Men do not have double standards in their marriage. Good men are straightforward and say and do exactly what they mean. They are honest and genuine. Again, this is who's waiting for you, ladies, when you change your behaviors, because when these are the ways you show up in your relationship, your behaviors have consequences and your husband is reacting and responding to these behaviors in you, that if you changed and you show up differently, he would be the good man that he is. Number 8 of how to know you are a bad wife. You talk behind your husband's back. So we feel entitled to talk negatively, and part of my language, bitch, about our husbands to our family, to our friends, to his mother, and commiserate and validate our story of how awful they are. We build a case against them so that we feel entitled to how we feel in the relationship or feel entitled to leave. And then we have everybody on our side. Good men are respectful of their wife's issues. They're respectful of the issues in the marriage and feel that you don't air dirty laundry in public and that the marital issues are personal and private. This is who is waiting for you when you change your behaviors. Number 9, to know you are a bad wife. You are not interested in sex. If you are, it's because it's a checklist and you feel like it's an obligation that you have to do and you are not present in it and feel no responsibility that this should be something that's a healthy part of the marriage. Good men know that sex is a normal, healthy activity that couples in a marriage get to share as part of why you get married, that you get to have sex with a person that you love and enjoy. It's a benefit of marriage. And the thing about good men is they don't want to go have sex with someone else. They want their wife. Can't tell you how many times I've read in Homework from Good Men or in speaking with them that who are sadly in a sexless marriage, and their wives have said, well, why just go outside the marriage? That's how shut down they are to sex. And good men don't want to do that. They want their wife. They want the woman they love because they have that emotional connection. They're not bad boys. And number 10, how to know you are a bad wife. You undermine your husband in front of your children and make him look bad. As women, we will use children as pawns against our husbands to get the children on our side and continue to build that case against our husbands. So women will purposely create arguments in front of children to show and prove how their husbands are wrong. They'll say derogatory things about their husbands to the children in front of the husband and undermine their parenting. Good men believe that adult arguments and discussions should be had behind closed doors, not in front of the children, and be done in a responsible way. And good men also want to teach their children to respect their mother. Good men are quick to say, don't talk to your mother that way. Don't disrespect your mother. You need to go apologize. That's who's waiting for you when you change these behaviors. So those are the 10 behaviors to show you that you are a bad wife, not to beat yourself up and make yourself wrong, but to create self-awareness so that you can actually change these behaviors and have a healthy, loving relationship. I forgot to say this in the beginning. That my inspiration for doing this video today was I had a woman who is an audience member on the channel. I had a woman reach out to me and send me an article that was actually on MSN of like 12 signs you're a bad wife. And she thought I would enjoy that. So that was my inspiration for this today. And to red pill women to see these things in ourselves because we know we have these behaviors and we feel justified in them because we live in camp victim. So getting a little bit into the solution and then we will wrap up. Women, you have to ask yourself, what type of wife do you want to be? If you're open-minded and you see these behaviors in yourself and you're having an OS moment of, oh my gosh, this is me. 1, good for you. And 2, now you have to ask yourself, what type of wife do you want to be? Do you want to have integrity and feel good about yourself and be a good wife because of who you want to be and your husband gets the benefit? Or do you want to stay stuck in victim and breaking your husband down through these behaviors? That's the choice that understanding victim gives us. Do I want to keep living in camp victim and creating this miserable, unhappy experience? Or do I want to take responsibility and accountability for these behaviors and change the experience and outcome of my marriage and my life? That's the choice that it gives us that we never knew we had. Some women know these behaviors that I spoke about today blatantly, and some women know, but live in denial because of the facade that they hide behind. Some women feel entitled and justified because of their husband's behaviors. But for those women who are open-minded, regardless of which category you fall into, it's shining the light on them so that you change and understanding you have to go first. You're creating the dynamics in the relationship from these behaviors and your husband is reacting and responding negatively to them. So if you want things to change, you have to go first and change these behaviors and all those characteristics and traits that I shared of a good man. He will be right there waiting for you. Doesn't mean he's perfect and he doesn't make mistakes. Good man's the first to admit when he makes a mistake. Even if he doesn't make the mistake, he admits he made the mistake. And that's who's waiting for you. So you overcome these behaviors by building a healthy relationship with yourself. The foundation of where these behaviors is coming from is having an unhealthy relationship with yourself, not feeling good about who you are. And this is how that relationship gets expressed in us as women is through these behaviors. So you overcome it by building a healthy relationship with yourself, which is what I teach women how to do in my happiness course. And there's a link in the description to apply for a consultation with me. For the men, seeing who you are as a good man is critical. That's why I did the opposite in the behaviors of what a good man is, so that you can reconnect with who you really are in your nature as a good man and rebuild your strength and confidence. What can happen for a good man, he's reacting negatively and poorly to the behaviors of his wife, because the behaviors break down his confidence and sense of groundedness in himself. And so he responds in poor or negative ways to his wife. She uses that as ammo against him, and he believes that's who he is and how he's the problem. So by remembering and reconnecting with who you are as a good man, you can stop buying into the crazy making and show up as who you are as a good man for yourself, to feel good about who you are and no longer get sucked in and gaslit to behave outside your character or to believe that you are the problem. And that makes you feel really good about yourself, and for you to be grounded in knowing that you're reasonable and a good man. As always, these videos are meant for good men to be in the reality and the truth of the woman that you married. So if your wife is unwilling to change, unwilling to look at these things in herself, that's a good thing to know, because then you can be grounded in the reality, and based on your values and priorities you have in life, you can make choices of what are your steps forward and what would you like to do, understanding the reality of the dynamics in your marriage. And that gives you, again, the ability to build your strength and confidence back up, so you are no longer giving your power away to your wife, and she no longer has that control over you to beat out of you the characteristics that make you a good man. And that's what my men's course is for, is to teach men the reality of their marriage and their wife, to rock the boat and fight for the marriage, to see what it can be or to understand what it's not going to be. And through that process, a good man rebuilds his strength and confidence as a good man. Again, you can find the link to apply for that consultation for the men's course in the description below. All right. So that was today's topic. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Please remember to like, to consider subscribing if you haven't already, and share this video with anyone that you know might benefit. So I'm going to take a second and look through the chat. Thank you to Phil and Steve for keeping an eye on questions today. Since Evo is out of town, Evo, we miss you today, but hope you're having a good time in what you're doing on your weekend. Yeah. All right. You are welcome, Jojo. And Brian saying thank you. You're very, very welcome. And then, yeah, it'll be a little different today. I've got to look through the chat today, so appreciate it. Let me go here first and I'll come back. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, for the contributions today, guys. That's very, very kind. It's also, very appreciated. Yeah. So in your experience, does hormone therapy help a woman feel happier? Should we believe our wives or girlfriends when they blame their attitudes on their hormones? So I have a video. It's a short video. Gosh, and now I'm not going to be able to remember the name of it. If somebody can hop over to the video tab and share the name of the video I did recently. It's like 2 or 3 minutes on the myth about hormones. I think that's what it is, the myth of hormones that good men need to know. It's not that women don't have hormones, but that we are grown-up adults and can learn to be in control of our emotional responses and reactions, regardless of what's happening hormonally. It's called being a grown-up adult. So we use our hormones as an excuse to, again, part of my language, be a bitch, be emotional, and to not show up as our best version of ourselves. So no, you should not buy into the excuse of hormones. And that no, while hormone therapy can maybe help regulate our hormones, whether or not we are happy is an internal experience, because being happy is having a healthy relationship with ourselves. So hormone therapy is not going to build a healthy relationship with ourselves. Building a healthy relationship with ourselves as women is an active, engaged process to do the things in our life that show us we value ourselves and that we are important to ourselves. It's a process of building character and integrity of who we are, and hormone therapy can't do that for us. So that's a simple way to understand that, is that happiness comes from feeling good about who we are by the character and integrity we have in our choices and decisions in life, and doing the things to show us we are important and that we value ourselves. When we do that, we learn to be in control of our emotional state. That even if we are hormonal, we have a choice of who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? It's the same as if you've got a cold and you've still got to show up at work. And being a grown-up adult is not feeling sorry for yourself and acting out poorly and being like, so sorry, I've got a cold. No, we put our adult pants on and we show up and we get the job done. And we hold our head high and we're proud of ourselves at the end of the day because we were in control of ourselves. So thank you for the question. Let's see, what's the next one here? So, okay. So my wife has scheduled an appointment with you, but simply lacks the attention span to dig through your back catalog of videos. So that's an excuse. That if a woman really wants to change and really wants to look at these things and fight for the marriage, the women I talk to who are a fit for my program are open-minded and have taken the lead of their husbands to watch my videos, even if they were upset. In the beginning, they came around and recognized, man, this is true. And they ate a big old piece of humble pie. And so the women that are a good fit for my program are open-minded, want to look at these things. And those women, not that they've watched all my videos, but typically they say, yes, my husband showed these videos to me. I was really upset at first, but then I realized I needed to see this. And thank you so much. And they begin, and then most of them share, I've just been binge watching your videos because they're so helpful to me and I want to change. So don't buy into the excuse that it's an attention span piece. So that's number one. If you want a more succinct video of the points I line out, then that's where you want to send your wife to my Happiness 101 course. The link is in the description below, where it's directed toward women of the struggles we have within ourselves to be happy. So that's what I would suggest. Thank you, Cinemage, maybe? Is that if that's how you say it? Thank you so much for your contribution. My wife, and to each of these questions, thank you so much. My wife actively ignores minor health concerns because she hates going to hospitals. How do I get her to see that it's bad decision making and that she's teaching our kids to ignore their own issues? There's nothing you can do. I don't mean that in a doomsday way, but it comes back to the principle that we have no control over another to understand or see their decision making. If your wife doesn't want to see what she's doing to herself and the role modeling that she's giving her children, then she doesn't want to see it, and there's nothing you're going to do to make her see it or understand her decision making. In fact, the more you try to push and get her to see it, most likely she's going to be defensive and have her walls up and dig her heels in even more. So this is part of the recognizing, okay, this is who she is and how she's showing up. I have to accept it and navigate it the best that I can in a healthy way and do my best to role model to the kids and teach the kids something different. And I have to accept this is my wife. And the more you can get to that place, then she may eventually come around to see this unhealthy pattern. So again, thank you for the question and thank you for the contributions from each of you. Appreciate it very much. Let me come back over here. All right. Let's see. That's a good question. I'm going to do a separate live on this, so I'm not going to get into it right now. What is your perspective on women with high body counts and their ability to be a good wife? If a woman wants to change and see these things in herself, regardless of her past, she can become who she wants to be and change. We've all, including myself, all have decisions and choices we made when we were younger or in our past that don't look good and are not healthy behaviors, including a high body count. But if we want to change, that's the purpose of Camp Take Responsibility, that nothing in our past has any bearing over our ability to create our future and become who we want to be if we are willing to change and look at ourselves. There have been people who've done incredible things in their life who had really poor history and made really bad choices. I'm one of them. So I will do a live that goes more in detail on that. But I think the main message is, man or woman, that our past has no bearing on our ability to make different choices, to take responsibility and accountability and make changes. Let's see. Let's see. I'm not familiar with that. Thanks, Phil. Thank you so much, Phil, for copying and pasting these questions. It's really helpful. I'm currently studying personal temperaments. What are your thoughts on the role different personal temperaments play within marriage relationships? Thanks. Thank you for the question. I'm not familiar. I'm familiar with what temperament is. So I'm not necessarily familiar with what exactly you're studying. But I think my answer is that we have control when we learn and we want to show up in a kind way, regardless of different temperaments we have. If we say, oh, I have this, certain temperament, and we use that as an excuse, that's just an excuse. We all have the ability to be kind and show up as grown-up adults in a way with integrity and character. Oh, that's a good question. What do you do about your wife saying you don't emotionally support me, even though you are doing things to support her emotions? Also being accused when having done nothing wrong. Bless you. You are not alone. When your wife says you don't emotionally support her, she's gaslighting you. She's manipulating you to believe that you don't support her. You have to be grounded in knowing what you do to support her so you don't fall for the gaslighting and drop the rope. That you have to know who you are and be connected to yourself as a good man and the role you play in the relationship and how you are there for your wife. So when your wife says you don't emotionally support you, you know in yourself, no, that's not correct. I know who I am. I know the ways that I show up. This is on you. What this means is your wife is not emotionally supporting herself. And she's taking it out on you because she's living in camp victim and blaming you. So thank you for the question. Maggie, the substitute teacher, thank you so much and so lovely to have you. And thank you for your contribution. She says, enjoy your content and perspective. Thank you. You are so welcome. So welcome. So that's a great note to end on. And I'm getting hungry. It's lunchtime here. So thank you guys so much for being here today. To the moderators, keeping it a supportive place in the chat, and keeping an eye on everything so I can focus on teaching. And I look forward to seeing you guys in 2 weeks. A reminder, no show next week for the 4th of July. And I hope those of you in the States have a happy 4th. God bless America. And thank you guys so much for this incredible opportunity. So I will see you guys in a couple weeks. All right. Bye.